All right, so welcome back in today. We're going to dive into Binance Smart Chain and Ethereum, why they may be on a collision course or on completely different tracks. We'll try to break all that down for you. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into TechPath. Let's join in today on a couple of news topics because, first of all, if you're new to the channel, maybe you're new into crypto. This is something that we get a lot of new people coming to our channel, but we also have a ton of audience that comes back to the channel. So thank you for visiting again. Make sure and like the video because that helps us with the algorithm. Understanding if you like the topics that really help us kind of dive into some of these deeper analysis on projects like Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain. And it helps us understand really what you guys want. So definitely give that up. And let's jump into it real quick. BNB Chain versus Ethereum, their differences explained. This was a really good article that was broken down by Cointelegraph. And they kind of get into the breakdown of where Binance Smart Chain was, why it was moving in the direction it is currently, and then also the position of ETH. And we'll kind of give you a whole insight of where that is and why ETH's proof of stake and proof of work, that split is such a needed one. Blockchain technology, in some cases, other distributed ledger technology is basically for you guys that are new, on track with crypto assets and solutions that are out there. Builders use tech like this for decentralized application, dApps, which you're probably starting to learn that word a lot, and digital assets. Essentially, the core here in the race is designed around transaction speed. TPS is what they call that. In reality, most of crypto, for the essence of utility, is after the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail, in essence, is speed of transactions without the problem of crashing a network. And these are the things that we would have to have in place for Web3 and the kind of transactions that are going to happen on this overall architecture in the future. And why that's important is if you think about Web2 today, all of the e-commerce transactions that you do, all of the data transactions that you're doing out on the open web in Web 2 are essentially a scenario, even on social media to a certain extent. There's an amount of transactions that are pulled across all of Web 2 that has to equate to the growth of Web 3. The difference is that you're layering in the monetary system. And what I mean by that is money. Money is going to be, in essence, in the ability when we see Web 3 to flow much like any other piece of data that's out there in Web 2 today. So these two chains are very important in the development of that kind of architecture. So dApps essentially serve as programs that look similar to other programs. On the front end, touting user-friendly interface. It's basically interface what you might see. Back end runs on these blockchains or other distributed ledger technology. And depending on the asset, coins or tokens built on these blockchains, they can facilitate transactions, store value, all these kind of things that really are important and are very important from an aspect of how these chains are built out. Now, there's two different tracks that both Binance is taking and that Ethereum is taking. Further on, is BNB Smart Chain better than Ethereum? Ethereum better than Smart Chain? It kind of breaks it down here with a little bit of understanding it. Ethereum's scaling has surfaced as an issue. In essence, this is one of the reasons that we're seeing Ethereum 2.0 being developed right now for proof of stake versus proof of work, is the ability to really kind of lower gas fees and also continue to increase transactions. In contrast, BNB Chain is a new blockchain that aims to help developers create high-performance dApps, so formerly known as Binance Smart Chain, but was rebranded in early 2022, separated from Binance Exchange, newly dubbed as the BNB Smart Chain. And really what it's after here is the function of being able to bring a lot of new developers into the space, give them a vehicle in which they can transact on. And a lot of that has a really good future because with Ethereum, it's a little different because they're really after the transaction side, even though they are the de facto transaction element for most of the NFT platforms out there, which would be dApps in the future. We could see a lot more of that kind of ecosystem build around things like Ethereum. But BNB Chain offers Ethereum an EVM, which is a virtual machine, and smart contract abilities without producing network congestion and reducing in throughput. This basically drops a bunch of the gas fees that you typically see there. On the other hand, BSC is an independent blockchain rather than off-chain or a layer 2 scalability solution, which means it would continue to run even if BNB Beacon Chain went offline. This is a very important feature of Binance and the smart chain in itself. Because if you see beacon chains and the importance of it, in essence, is if almost like if HTTP went offline, you couldn't run the internet. Those are the kind of things that are being built around Web3, and this is a very important aspect to it. The Binance Bridge is also a platform that allows users to move assets between cross chains easily. Big deal. ETH also has some referred to as Ether, is used to pay gas fees on the Ethereum blockchain. And then, of course, Binance Coin, BNB, is used for gas fees on the BNB smart chain, just like ETH is used for gas fees on the Ethereum blockchain. So they have a lot of similarities. The question is which one of these may end up in the winner's circle down the road from an aspect of usability or utility in the future, because this is really what the race is all about. And I think this is the thing that a lot of people miss, is that why is crypto and Web3 such a discussed topic and such a cult-driven almost fight to the death out there when you have certain projects that are in so much love with what they're doing as an overall project? I think it's really kind of the fight for the internet, from a Web3 standpoint. If you think about where Web2 was and the fight we saw in the late 90s and early 2000s, many of you probably don't remember those, but there was a ton of companies that were fighting for their daily lives of survival to be able to make it through that evolution, and eventually was the .bomb. And I think we're going to have that same kind of scenario. Now, will it be the kind of mecca of an implosion in the crypto market that we saw back in the late 1990s, early 2000s? That I'm not completely sure of, but I feel like there are a lot of remnants of that market. So it does kind of lean into why we're seeing so much tension between these competing projects, chains, and different types of protocols. CZ, if you guys know and follow BNB, CZ is pretty much the face man of Binance, CEO, one of the most richest guys in the world. And he really is, I think, a great artisan around putting together a very strategic role with what Binance is trying to do. Let me kind of break down a couple of things that they've done here recently. So here's Binance Custody. Binance Custody launches Binance Escrow Service. This is going to be big for the potential in the future where an independent party, we facilitate secure transactions between parties holding assets. Think of this in just the simple terms of real estate. Escrow is something you recognize in the real estate business. You also probably understand that in different types of securities, trust, all sorts of financial instruments that are utilized to be able to transact in today's economy and today's world of Web 2.0 and the traditional internet as we know it today. Getting to a Web 3 escrow is very important. So Binance being able to do that for a custody launching escrow is going to be huge. Here's another one that they just announced, next round of Binance Learn and Earn, which I think is another big thing that Binance continues to do and only supports the when you think about BNB and the Binance Smart Chain. This to me is a very critical move, which I don't understand why so many more exchanges haven't really gone in this direction of true education. But they're doing a program where they're announcing this round of Learn and Earn. It's going to be launching here just in a couple of days. All KYC users will be eligible to complete the online courses and quizzes to earn free crypto. Basically, they're making you learn or helping you learn about crypto investing. It's going to only make you guys better as you explore your whole ecosystem of what you want to invest in. And I think exchanges that are kind of going in this direction, very, very important for sure. Binance also, NFT Marketplace launches an exclusive Mobox official challenge. This gets back to my point. You can burn Mobox, Momoverse, NFT avatars to win BNB and Mobox tokens. The point with Mobox here is really more so about how BNB is fostering these dApps and these different projects to evolve within their ecosystem, because that to me is one of the key things around Binance as a whole, where Ethereum kind of does this, in the essence of dApps, but it's a little bit more on autopilot, where Binance has a lot more, because they being an exchange and the evolution into so many other aspects of the cryptoverse, they have a lot more ability to, I won't say manipulate, but control the narrative of what's happening within that Binance ecosystem. So a lot really kind of leaning in. this is a good example right here. Binance is now fully integrated virtual asset service provider in Italy. I think we're going to see this a lot more around a lot of different countries who are going to start to certify different exchanges and different companies to be able to operate in this new arena of digital assets, and virtual assets in this particular case. So that's kind of the position I have with Binance. They are very vested in the crypto community, highly capable in terms of education, the development of dApps and developers themselves, the amount of money they're pouring into the space in a lot of different areas, I think leans them into a very good position. Now, could they, supplant what's happening on the Ethereum ecosystem? A lot of that is dependent on Ethereum themselves. Before we break down Ethereum, though, I want to, of course, thank our sponsor today, and that is iTrust Capital. If you guys are looking at going in and looking at long-term, right now is a really good time when I look at dollar cost averaging into a lot of the primary crypto assets, even though there's a ton of different assets you can get on iTrust. Even if you're just doing ETH and Bitcoin right now, because of their price points under 30 and under 2K in most cases. At the time of filming, we were right above 30 on Bitcoin. But the key here is that you can put all of this and lock it up in an IRA and start to do all of your programming around not only tax incentives, but also not paying taxes on your gains in your IRAs themselves. So a lot helps you in investing in a crypto IRA using, of course, iTrust Capital. Make sure and use our link below. You're going to get a $100 funding reward just by using our link below. So make sure and check that out. Let's jump over to news on Ethereum. This is one of the big ones I thought this week that really is kind of interesting. We're going to break this down a little bit more on some other videos this week, but world's biggest financial holding company, Fidelity, to offer Ethereum custody and trading. This to me is a pretty significant move. Let me kind of zoom up on that just so you guys kind of understand. This was reported by Wall Street Journal. Company plans to double the headcount in 22 as they expect a return in demand for digital assets. This to me is a huge statement right there, because that is preparation for the market, and again, prep for good projects and overall infrastructures that are being built within crypto and Web3, and Ethereum kind of leads the place on this. So I think that's a really a good position for Ethereum to be in, to get those kind of announcements. The other thing that's good for and has been good news for Ethereum is the Ropsten merge announcement. Ropsten, I think, has something to do with a Stockholm subway or something. But the interesting thing, Ethereum's longest-lived proof-of-work testnet is moving to proof-of-stake. It's a new beacon chain. Essentially, this is the first initial pilot of the merge, and it is one of the approved testnets that is going to help market in, or I guess, usher in the potential of Ethereum staying on track. That's the big question mark right now, is will Ethereum really stay on track for the merge to occur, which right now has been tentatively, well, I shouldn't say tentative anymore. They've said it will happen in August. So those have been keywords out of Vitalik himself. This is an interesting tweet right here, Ethereum Daily, which kind of breaks it down. Ethereum is now closer than it's ever been in the merge. It's only a matter of time before we move to proof of stake. Here's the notable projects that were on Ethereum this week. And some of these are a little bit on the edge case, and don't judge too much here. Obviously, you see a lot of these, more social tokens, definitely the meme tokens, catching a lot of bullish sentiment on ERC20. And then you can kind of see some of the other training projects, so they obviously are right there in the hunt all the time. $38.6 billion market cap, which I think is pretty interesting right there in terms of overall. Alt rank, still very high. Ethereum is really just an overpowering project when you look at the size and scope of it, for sure. Main testnet integration, proof of stake. This, of course, was the merge, now has a date, June 8th. This is the one on the Ropsten proof of work and proof of stake consensus, which I think, again, goes back to the point of the fact that Ethereum is making strides. So will that date of August be hit? And if it is, what does that do to the rest of the ecosystem? Because that, to me, is a pretty significant thing. It's going to get in a position where I think a lot of people will say, hey, listen, if this is successfully launched like the Ropsten beacon chain, then this could be the opening to a lot of things. One, price point on Ethereum could just absolutely skyrocket. Could be one of the leveraging elements that could take us out of a bear market. Analysts are kind of leaning in on that. And there's also some other aspects, because you've got projects like Cardano that, of course, has been fighting that fight for quite some time. And if you look at just Cardano in general, there's a lot that has a lot of similarities on Cardano and Ethereum. And remember that the split happened during the launch of Ethereum. So this is the first time that we've really seen a major revision to, when I say major, there's been a lot of updates to Ethereum, but for us to see a true revision on the chain itself of repopulation into a true proof of stake is a big difference. And I think that's the last time we really started to see Cardano, the evolution of IOHK, and when they split off mainly on differences of opinions on where this might go. And looks like, with Cardano, they might be in a very heated race if Ethereum is in fact getting to that stage of success in essence of the merge itself. So lots happening here. Another thing that I'd want to kind of talk about right here, and this gets back to my point, crypto badly needs a win right now. Ethereum pulling off the most important upgrade in history of blockchain would provide that. It would demonstrate the Ethereum community, which is a reputation for being friendly, but also frivolous, is capable of serious business. And it could trigger back to the ETH price rally, which I talked about a little bit before. And frivolous, when you think about that, it gets back to my point that I was talking about earlier in comparison to Binance, is that with Binance, you have such a methodical, strategic model in place of how they're layering in so many different ecosystem elements, versus how Ethereum is kind of just out there in the wind, where dApp developers are going this way or that way, and we've got so much innovation that's happening, but at the same time, we have a lot of challenges. So all of that kind of points in the direction of, can Ethereum come together and truly become the chosen one when it comes to it? So Ethereum liquidations top 157 million after the merge upgrade test hits a snag. This was a couple of weeks ago, where they did have a little bit of an unusual situation that kind of happened in the essence of, and this is something that does happen often, where you get these little bit of developmental snags, and we've seen it over and over, even though I feel like with Ethereum we shouldn't have seen too many of these kind of things happening, especially this late stage, but maybe it was kind of a final little bit of a plug when we saw the a bit of exploit there on Ethereum. So what is Ethereum 2.0? So understanding the merge, it's kind of a breakdown here. If you don't truly understand what 2.0 is, essentially in a simple thing is, we're trying to get to higher transactions, because you got to do that with Web3, and you're trying to reduce gas fees. And in essence, there's a lot of other things within this that will really change, but the mining aspect, if you think about ESG or social governance and what that might have in the impact of crypto, Ethereum has been one of those that has kind of been pointed at. This will, of course, change a lot of that too. But it talks about it here. 2.0 staking mechanism will replace the proof of work model, where cryptocurrency miners use high-powered computers, complete complex mathematical. Same thing with Bitcoin. Even though there's some argument around that, I still do agree that Bitcoin will most likely usher in a lot more efficiencies within renewable energy. And I think, though to a certain extent, even some other chains will have that, but I think a lot of people are leaning into more ESG type stuff. So still a very good move, I think, with Ethereum. But again, the big question here is, do they make it happen? New testing the merge milestone right here. This is the kiln test, now processing more transactions than mainnet for the last 6 days. Even though there are a lot of transactions per day, this is 1.3 million. This is a very small number in the scope of the overall ecosystem of Web3 and what that's going to look like. 1.3 million could be, in a scenario of maybe a minute in the future, maybe within, 30 seconds. The kind of growth potential for Web3 and what that means in the future is going to be serious. So I think testing right now is just really testing at a very, very minimal basis. I want to jump to a couple of things here because it just gets into, and I think there's some data here. Let me go to this one right here. This is kind of a chart showing the ETH 2.0 pledged now intersecting the ETH price, which is kind of interesting. And then if you look at the ETH 2.0 deposits, here's the US value of ETH in ETH2 right now, 25 billion. I mean, you can kind of see the growth right here. This has been serious since January 2021, kind of the announcement of ETH 2.0's plan. And to get to emerge by August, and here we are in April, look at that, just unbelievable. Good volume in terms of ETH sent to ETH 2.0 over time. Obviously, a lot of action right now because there's been a lot of news around this. But even if you look back in the period of time in which we were at all-time highs for Ethereum, not as much push around at that period of time. So this tells me this is the period and time where a lot of people are starting to go in and look at more ETH 2.0 deposits because it is getting closer to the future. And I think that's the question: is how does all this, how does all this kind of hold up? One thing that I look at between the two, because I have money in both, whether you're in BNB, if you want to get into the coin or the token behind it, or if you're just looking at the ecosystem and you're looking for projects. Either way, one of the things I look at is our own crypto power index. The way that I will take this is I'll take a look at Binance and Ethereum, and actually they're right here neck and neck. So let's go to Ethereum quickly. And here is Ethereum right now based on our current market. Now remember that our current market, as of time of recording, we've had a little bit of a market rise, even though it's not nearly as what it was just even a month ago, which was running at around a 70. Right now, overall market's up around 65. This is 100 basis points based on sentiment, overall sentiment of the market. And then you have the individuals. So here's sentiment of Ethereum, kind of back and forth, has had some highs. It dipped a little bit during its run to around 1,800, and then it started to lift out a little bit. It doesn't seem to be tracking as closely to overall market. So this may be a little bit more slower of a move, but at the same time, we are getting a little bit more of an amplification move, which usually indicates some positive moves for that project. If you look at Binance, completely different story, because Binance has actually been outpacing the overall market. So it almost has an element to it of a stablecoin in essence. Now, is it? No, it's not, because it has a volatility just like anything else. But the fact that it's been able to kind of hold in the 70s, with exception of back here in 520, where it did dip below the 70 mark to a 69.22 on overall sentiment and a 68 on AMP, but came right back and has been somewhat stable. And if you compare this to price point, again, somewhat stable here on overall. This was trending down. Binance was actually holding sentiment-wise, and it's been one of those projects, again, for BNB that has been a good investment, at least for me. I've done a couple of investments on BNB, but it is a bit one of those projects that I still am curious on, mainly because we don't have as much access to Binance through exchanges other than Binance US, but we don't see a lot of that happening still. I feel like Binance, the ecosystem, lives outside the United States. So not that Ethereum doesn't either, because there's so many projects that are out in whether it's Pacific Rim or even Europe that really ride heavily on Ethereum. So when I weigh these two out, I'm still weighing in on Ethereum as being the winner here. Full disclosure, I'm highly invested in Ethereum. I do own Binance. Both of these, remember, we'll do market movers, we'll give you guys a breakdown of data on these. These are not financial advice. It really is just a point of our own analysis of how these projects are reacting in the market, but also maybe how the technology itself can kind of move, but not investment advice. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of education on the two. Route-wise, for me, I invest in both, so it's something that I try to, hedge my bets on both these projects, because I think both are going to win in the essence of the future. Both of them, I think, will be around. The key here for Ethereum is going to be the merge. If it holds up and we see more delay, that's a problem. I think it's going to open a window for Cardano, for Solana, for other true, TPS chains that drive onto the number of transactions and innovation that kind of roll around it. But Ethereum just still, it's the reigning king. I just don't know that it can be slipped out of so many NFT projects, so many projects overall. Binance, on the other hand, I think their continued effort on ecosystem development is a good strategy. And I think as they continue to build, they're going to create a titan when it comes to these dApps, because there's going to be a handful of those dApps that are being developed in the Binance Smart Chain right now. There's going to be some unicorns in there, and unicorns by the mean of companies and projects that revolutionize Web3 in so many different areas. So be on the lookout for both of these. It's just two different angles. Obviously, for me, Ethereum is still kind of the route that I take in terms of investment strategy. If you guys are listening in over on the podcast right now, make sure and tune in over here to the YouTube channel. This is the place where you catch all this good stuff and where we break down not only tokens, we give you access to some of our CPI data, but more importantly, it's where you guys can give us your input on what you'd like to see next. So if you have maybe someone you'd like to see on the show as an interview, or you'd like us to do a breakdown, or maybe doing a deep dive analysis, happy to get all that just through the comments down below. And of course, you can reach out to me. It's on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.